If it ain't broke, don't fix it. Yeah, we've all heard that. But here's the real question. If it ain't broke, will it bite you later? As far as I'm concerned, if it ain't broke can be dangerous advice in business in 2020. And we're going to talk about that today. So being a little bit paranoid isn't bad, but of course, this is Don Barnes here with episode 7 of Audio Barnyard, where we're helping you grow non-GMO, nutrient-dense audio using all natural fertilizer and of course, while avoiding the VO cow pies. So, you do hear this, if it ain't broke, don't fix it type stuff. And there is a case for that. But boy, there are so many cases and so many times where that's just I don't want to learn anymore, I kind of have a process. Too many times I hear it as an excuse for not moving forward. If something new comes out, here's the thing that I want to switch the mindset about it. Because there's kind of this myth, everything's working, so it'll continue to work. And what they're basically saying is, don't rock the boat. I'm not going to change, so you have nothing to gain by upgrading. It's almost all downside. Well, every upgrade has two sides, obviously, upside, downside. And you should be careful because, bad things do happen to good people. But in business, it's important to take advantage of the technology and the things that can make you better than the people around you. And what we're talking about here is a balance of upgrades and refinements and working toward a competitive advantage. And some of that is just plain mindset. So we're going to talk about 3 major areas here that you're going to be thinking about all the time. Kind of your operating system and your computer foundation, your DAW, and then there's kind of a much bigger group, much bigger than we'll talk about today, but your attitude and your performance and your general tech and your recording space and your work ethic and learning mindset, that kind of thing. Let's discuss these 3 primary areas. Number 1, you do have your computer operating system. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. Yeah, that's kind of right. This is a case where I'm on that. I'm going to be biased toward more safety whenever there's a major upgrade to the operating system. So in this case, I am biased toward being safer, and that means waiting 3 to 6 months before I'll make a major update to the operating system. The 2 major operating systems are a little bit different. If you're on Windows, they do make it easy to go back to the previous version. As long as you do it within the first month, it's easy to go back. On the Mac, for example, going to Catalina, which is currently happening as I'm recording this, you can't go back to Mojave easily. They make it very, very difficult to do that. It's really tough to do. You almost always on the operating system want to wait a few months at a minimum, let everyone else go through the problems. So Catalina comes out, and then there's Catalina ... point 1, Catalina ... point 2, and it keeps going on. By the time you get to about point 3, then it's usually very stable. And then talk and find out. Go into the group, see what the other people who you respect, get their opinion on it. And often, though, by that time, it's pretty safe to go forward. And there are some advantages to move forward. It's not all downside. Yes, the sky is falling sometimes. You do have to worry about issues that can come up if you upgrade. But don't think it's all downside by upgrading. You get usually performance enhancements. The number 1 thing you get out of it is security enhancements. There are kids out there with way too much time who would love to take and get in on your machine and somehow hack it, clean things out, get at credit card things. I mean, they just are out there. And don't think you're not a target any more than a porch pirate comes through and steals your Christmas gifts that you've ordered online and they're sitting on your porch. That's happening more and more. And they get more and more sophisticated about the hacking. So if you stay back on the older versions, you leave yourself open to security issues any more than you don't want to leave yourself vulnerable. So because your business could be at stake where it takes your machine down. Now, number 1, you should have a backup machine. You can't do that at first sometimes, but you really need to think about what can I do to make sure my business continues to move forward, even if my machine goes down. Now, if you have a backup, by the way, anybody doing this, you either have to have a backup plan or a version plan, or you need to have a backup computer. I never worry about upgrading my machines because I can just switch over to another machine if something went totally south. But that took me a long time to get all that together. So you really want to be thinking about that. So in that area, hey, if it ain't broke, wait a few months, all right, for the major upgrades. Unless you're a tech type, unless you have your plans in place to revert, or You have somebody who can help you with all the reversion if necessary. Wait a few months. Now let's talk about DAWs. In DAWs, it's kind of a different thing because the difference between an Audacity and a Reaper or a Studio One or a Pro Tools or Audition is there are some major productivity gains to be had by switching DAWs. If your punch and roll can be better, if your recording can be better, and I know people don't want to hear this if they're on Audacity, if they're on Oaken Audio, they just don't realize the performance enhancements available in some of the more advanced DAWs. There's huge, huge productivity advancements, and there's capability advancements. If someone's on Twisted Wave and then they get an opportunity to do a voiceover and they need to put in music, they now need to go learn something else and put it in an Audacity. But then I get frustrated by that just a little bit because if they have something like Studio One or Reaper or Pro Tools or Audition, there's these things called auto ducking. There's little things behind the scenes that make that so much more productive. And when you start a new DAW, if you're already using anything, you're already experienced, so you've used Audacity for 2 years, when you make a transition and upgrade to another DAW, you're not starting over. So your liability is lower because at the cost of some short-term learning, you can, by the end of the month, make up your time and start getting some residual time on those upgrades. So in the DAWs, I treat it different. Number one, you can always go back. It isn't a one-way street. You can have them installed in parallel. And even if you're in the same thing, so if you're using Studio One and a new version of Studio One comes out, all the advanced DAWs do this. You can install in parallel if you wish. So that means you can have version 4.5 and 4.6 on your machine at once, or version 3 and version 4. Man, I have RX back to version 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7 on my machine in case I need to go back to something. I can go back to a previous version of Studio One in about 10 minutes if I had some catastrophic problem. So they go from 4.5 to 4.6. I don't care. I just overwrite it, and then if there's an issue, I'll go back, and I can do it in about 10 minutes. So if your DAW allows for that, then that's one thing. If your DAW doesn't have a good way to revert, then you need to think more about, wait a couple weeks. And then check the groups you're in. If you're on Reddit or you're on Facebook, you're in one of our Facebook groups. There are a few nutcases like me that are right on the bleeding edge, and I'm monitoring quite a few different places to see what's happening with the operating system, what's happening with the DAW, and just see what those people are doing. But usually it's only a couple weeks on a DAW, so you don't need to wait months and months. Don't stay back 3 versions. That's crazy. And then check the groups you're in. If you're on Reddit or you're on Facebook, you're in one of our Facebook groups. There are a few nutcases like me that are right on the bleeding edge, and I'm monitoring quite a few different places to see what's happening with the operating system, what's happening with the DAW, and just see what those people are doing. But usually it's only a couple weeks on a DAW, so you don't need to wait months and months. Don't stay back 3 versions. That's crazy. But usually they don't just put out features and new versions for nothing. They're either solving security problems, they're either adding little minor performance tweaks, they're adding interface tweaks. I don't understand these people, and I'll just talk about Studio One. I don't understand people staying on version 3 of Studio One, especially because version 4 has been out over 18 months, and there's a bunch of little productivity enhancements that they would have gotten benefit for the last year had they made the little upgrade and didn't stay so far behind. And that's just one example. It happens all over the place in the DAW world. Well, it really comes down to they don't know what they don't know, and all the little tiny refinements that add up to more productivity at the cost of a very short-term learning where, they install it, they don't know it first, but there's new shortcuts for things. There's new techniques. And virtually every DAW that updates has something that will help you be more productive if you seek that out. So when it comes to DAWs, I don't buy this, if it ain't broke, don't fix it stuff. If it ain't broke, note that your competitors are out there, and some of them are moving forward as fast as possible. Because maybe my performance is not as good as yours. That's today. Assuming I'm doing a reasonable amount of this, my performance, and assuming that I'm the type that has the right mindset, I'm working on my performance, I'm working on my pronunciation, enunciation, I'm working on my acting skills, then I want my tech to be as far forward as possible to give me a competitive advantage because I want to catch up to you. If you're already ahead of me, I'm hungry to catch up to you, and I'm going to use every technology advantage that I can so that when a rights holder comes around, someone's going to hire me. If they're on the fence about using my voice or your voice, if we were going for the same job, don't take this personal. I don't even know who you are. Director, I don't even know you anymore. I want to beat you. And I have full respect for you want to win the job over me. Now, the odds of it, we're not going to compete. But that's the point, is that I want it that if they can't make a decision based on the two voices, what they do is they go, wow, his audio is cleaner, her audio is cleaner, my wife's audio is cleaner than this other person. And in the performance area, both of them would be qualified for this job. I'm going to go this way. People are coming after you. And just saying in the DAW area, well, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. I don't buy that at all. And I have to admit, most of the people that are listening to my podcast, they already know a little bit about me, and they're already of that mindset anyways, where they're pushing forward and they know I'm obsessed with productivity and finding a way. And if some of these other DAWs were more productive, I'd be there in a heartbeat. So anyway, you don't care about what I'm doing. But I'm a nutcase about finding better ways to put out higher quality audio in less time and making sure that we're at the forefront of being competitive in this business. So that's your DAW. Your DAW, definitely not the, hey, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Be looking for something better. If there's a better way to do it, I want to know about it. You let me know too. And then there's the final thing, which is I'm going to lump all these together. I'm not going to go over every one of them today, but I want you to start thinking about it where you're looking around. How is my recording space? Is there anything in this room that I could change and move a little bit and tweak? Could I add a pillow here? Can I add a little room treatment? Can I get this wall covered just a little more? What's my ceiling look like? Could that be better? What's in front of me? Where's my mic position? Could there be a better mic position? Some of these things can take you an hour to do one time and pay off with higher quality. Can I get something like RX and allow it to take out more mouth noise? There's a guy, here's a total aside, just because it crossed my mind. There's a guy who's famous out there, got a bunch of YouTube videos, and I download, and he goes, oh, my performance is all so great, and he's been in the business a long time. You download his demos, and the mouth noise is off the charts. He didn't know how to use RX. Not only that, some of his audio was clipping. And I've listened to, he's been around for a little bit, and he says, oh, I don't have to, he doesn't measure his stuff. So he doesn't even know it's clipping on a few occasions. On some of his samples, they clip. So that's an old school guy. Sometimes they think, oh, we've got this totally nailed. There are good tech tools that you can have that will allow you to be as strong in so many areas in terms of quality that if you go back 5 years, these tools just weren't available. People that started 5-10 years ago, they're in a whole different world than what's available to you now from a tech point of view. And then, so you definitely, from a tech point of view and new stuff coming out, keep your ears to the ground. Hang around with the people that are moving forward. It can make a positive difference for you. And then we have the other category thing that's probably as important as anything else. What's my attitude? What's my work ethic? What's my learning mindset? I'll never get too good at learning. I'll never work as efficiently as is possible. I can always refine that. My attitude about this whole thing can always be better, more refined. Anyone that knows me, because I do a lot of coaching, and I'm a low-stress kind of guy in that respect. Somebody calls me, I need to cancel. It's 10 minutes before we were supposed to start. It's like, cool. I don't say that in their face, but it's like, whatever. I've got plenty to do. I want to record another podcast. I have another thing to process for a client. If you have to take some time today because your kid got hurt, cool, go for it. But in other words, what we all want to do is learn how to roll with the punches. Business is about being adaptable as well. And how I take it when something goes wrong, and something will go wrong. It does for me anyway. It does for everybody that I know, and all the successful people I know have learned how to deal with some adversity. And they're not looking at it as, oh, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. They're looking at, what can I find? What can I find today, this week, this month, that's going to help me be better next month, next week, and in the future. And that'll benefit me over and over and over and over. And it never ends. Sorry about that. So we're going to be learning. We're going to be growing. We're going to be looking for little tweaks that we can make in every area. Stay back on the operating system a little bit, 3 months, maybe 6 months at the most. On the Windows, you don't have to be quite as careful. On the Mac, Depends on which version. Some of them you can't go back easily. When you get to DAWs and when you get to RX and processing, stay close to the front edge of that. By the way, so here's a side note. I know this guy who's an engineer, and he's recommending to people that they get RX elements. And I always think, why would you tell people that? It's like, and he's, oh, it's enough. I'm thinking, really? The multi-clicker alone in RX standard is worth the total cost of admission there. It's crazy what it can do to help you sound better and cleaner. And so I just don't understand that. Now, what it really comes down to is this guy used elements, and that's what he used. And he's an old school guy. So he doesn't understand, because he doesn't use it as much, how much benefit you can get by going all the way to standard. He's stuck in that, hey, it ain't broke, I won't fix it. Some of these guys have stayed back on RX5 for the last couple of years, which makes no sense to me, because they've had a couple of years to figure out what the difference are and what the new tools can do for them and their clients. They've given up an opportunity to remain competitive and be at the front edge of quality easily. All right. And then plus they're advising their own clients not to move forward because they haven't done it. And there's this kind of dirty secret. If you're a consultant, if you help people, if you're a coach, and if I haven't moved forward, I'm not going to tell you to move forward. What I don't want is you passing me up in some way, you putting out better quality audio. I know that from being a drummer. I was a young drummer, so I'm not going to tell you the whole story. But there's a couple, I passed most of my instructors over time, and I saw the result of that. And then I had it flipped the other way. I stopped playing when I was about 30. And once you stop, I had students that passed me. If you don't move fast enough today, the access to information and technology will unfortunately run you over. Others are hungry. They are working it. They're finding every little angle. And now there is so much information available on the web. People can find out and learn and grow and be better and get their performance better and get coaching in so many areas so quickly. It's so available with video conferencing and all the other tools. We cannot sit around and go, well, hey, it was good enough, then I don't need to worry about moving forward. I just don't buy that in 2019 or 2020 or 2021. It is time to move forward. So I just don't buy this. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. Repetition's the mother of all learning. Most of you heard me say that over and over again. So be sure to check out Studio1Jumpstart.com, S1Jumpstart.com, RxJumpstart.com, and leave a review on iTunes. Man, that really, really helps me a lot. Share this with other people. And be sure to join me next week for another episode of Audio Barnyard. This is Don Barnes, RedBarnesAudio.com. And of course, as always, I look forward to seeing you on the wires.